What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy. And I know this is not the usual command center that I'm coming to you from. My home office is not behind me. I'm on the road. I mentioned this in my last video here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. Please like this video, subscribe, etc., etc. Shout out to my friend Andy Meadows, invited me to speak at a conference today on Thursday in Round Rock, all about extending your brand online. I'm very excited about that. So if you follow me on social throughout the day on Thursday or on Friday, you'll see some clips and some moments from it. Should be a really fun time. Really, really humbled that Andy asked me to be a part of this. But because of that, I'm on the road. I'm traveling. I'm in a hotel room, obviously, as you can see. But the show goes on. That is part of extending your brand online, right? Is you can do things from anywhere and everywhere. We were just talking about this at dinner on Wednesday night, and I think that we need to have a weird conversation here. That's what I've decided to do in my hotel room, where I'm trying not to be super loud and like offend anybody who's sleeping or anything like that. Um, we have spent the last week, right? Because today is Thursday. We've spent the last week talking about Micah Parsons, almost more than anything. And we're at a time where the preseason is officially here, right? Last week was the Hall of Fame game, but today, Thursday, brings a handful of preseason games across the NFL. We'll get some on Friday. The Cowboys obviously play on Saturday. There will be a live post-game show here, by the way, on the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe, turn on the alerts. That way you're ready for it. As soon as the game ends, we'll be live. That is powered by Bleacher Report. You can also watch the show live in their app. And so it's weird. I feel like we're in this weird kind of sandwich of time with the Cowboys, where when training camp started, all we were talking about, right, was Kyer Elam looks great, Donovan Ezuraku looks great, Brian Schottenheimer's culture is taking charge, and that was kind of like the bottom, piece of bread to the sandwich, so to speak. And I think we're getting to the top piece, right? We're getting to the top, layer, if you will, with actual games starting to come. The scrimmage kind of opened our eyes a little bit up to that as well. But the meat, the middle, not even the meat, but like the vegetables and condiments, like everything that has absorbed all of the oxygen in the room has been the Micah Parsons situation. So again, the point I started a moment ago was 6 days ago, Micah requested his trade from the Cowboys. It was such a big day that we did 2 live shows here. And I told you in those live shows what I still believe, and it's that I think that Micah is going to be on the Cowboys roster, right? I think that Micah is 90. I've done some other, shows this week, some hits and whatnot. And obviously this question comes up. And every time I'm asked this question, I say, I'm 99% positive that Micah is going to be a Cowboy for the foreseeable future. And I think that you have to carry that 1% potential just because we live in a world of infinite possibilities. And I would offer, as we get further and further, into the meat, into the vegetables, into the condiments, that the man did request a trade, right? Like, and again, I think we all believed, I don't want to use that as a past tense term, but I think we all believed and maybe still believe that it was a negotiating tactic. It was a negotiating ploy. It was all part of the song and dance. These were things that I know I said, and I know a lot of you agreed with in the comments during our live shows. But we're so far removed from the initial request now that I think we wouldn't be being fair if we didn't consider maybe this is real, and not even that it's real. Maybe the outcome is real. Maybe he really is traded. Like, I think that question is worth asking out loud. And that's what I want to do today. I'm going to put something on your screen here. This is an article I wrote, and as I move over here, I don't have my dual monitor, so it makes things a little bit more complicated than usual. I do want to share that we did have, this was also part of the fun of traveling. We did have a bit of a change to all of our websites at SB Nation. So you're seeing Blog on the Boys. The look is a little bit different for those of you who use our site, which better be all of you. It's a little bit cleaner. If you are a logged in user, it's free to create an account. An account is what is required to comment, things like that. It is a much better ad experience for you. You see, I'm obviously logged in. You see no ads right here. We do have videos that autoplay, but if you scroll down, those videos go away now. You see the title, obviously, of the article at the very top. You see the number of comments so far. et cetera, et cetera. We're really focused on playing to you all, our audience. And as you can see here, these are the most active articles. What I like is you can click directly on the comments and go straight to the discussion that is happening around what is in this case an article about the first unofficial depth chart of the season, which was also released while I was traveling. So I didn't mean this to be like full-on tutorial of our website, but this is the article we're about to discuss. I do want to express what this is, the feed over here on the right. This is one of our newer innovations. Again, this exists across all of SB Nation, not just at Blogging the Boys. The feed is kind of a like a catch-all. It's a discussion point. You can go to the feed, which let me do for you right here, and you can create a post and you can title it whatever you want and put the body of it, your text. You can embed something, whether that's a tweet you want to just start a discussion around or whatever, a YouTube video or a TikTok or an Instagram post. Dave Halpern, one of our staffers, our deputy editor, Dave is amazing. Throughout this hypothetical, whether or not you would trade Micah to the Eagles for a 7th-round pick if it meant getting rid of the Joneses. But as you can see, not super popular right away. Sometimes these things take time, but this is an example of embedding a tweet that we're going to discuss in a moment here. I really, really, really like this function of our new look website, and I hope you do too. And we just had a new discussion article come out as well, which is how much do you put into winning preseason games? An aside, the Cowboys have not won their first preseason game of a season since 2017 when they won the Pro Football Hall of Fame game. So anyway, let's get to the point here. Thank you for appeasing me. Sometimes these changes, though, need to be explained, right? Like I think you might see like, oh, they changed their website or whatever. But just so you know, those are the details. And if you have any questions, you all can contact me at any social profile. My links are down in the description below. So I wrote this and it went out on Thursday, which is basically the same conversation we're having here, which is that it's time to consider that Micah Parsons' trade request was not just a tactic. And the impetus for this thought for me came from my good friend Bobby Belt of 105 The Fan. Bobby talked about this on The Fan on Wednesday. I've transcribed what he said for you here. Let's zoom in so you can read it. So this is Bobby's description of his assessment of the situation in terms of discussing things with his sources, etc. So Bobby Belt's words here. The impression I got yesterday, this was said by him on Wednesday, so this on Tuesday. The impression I got yesterday talking to people at the Cowboys and just calling around the league and stuff like that is they're not joking with the request. Like right now, they're serious, it feels like. There's a lot of people around the Cowboys who feel like they're not bluffing. And this was about the relationship. It's in need of repair. That's the relationship between Mike and the Cowboys. The way things are currently, they want out. And that's the thing. I think the Cowboys have to be the ones to extend the olive branch and say, hey, we'll fix this. Continuing here, clearly, if they've reached out twice, they now being Micah's representation, David Mulugeta said it on the record twice they've done it in these instances, and this is what we've heard back. Then I think that clearly says that the Cowboys, the ball's in their court to be the ones to go do something about it. It felt more real to me than that this is just a leverage play. So I think that's kind of, well, actually, let's put this back up on your screen 1 second here. Share, and here we go. Princess problems, not having a dual monitor. Anyway, let's zoom out a little bit here. In case you missed this happened on Tuesday night on social media. There was a Rams account who posted an edit of Micah in a Rams jersey. You can see that in the photo right there. And Aaron Donald, obviously Rams legend, commented on this account and seemed to be joking around and said, oh my gosh, if this happens, I need to think about coming out of retirement. Like, again, just clearly having some fun. And Micah responded to Aaron Donald and said, oh man, don't tell me that. And he tagged David Mulugeta, who's obviously his agent. Now, I think I'd hesitate to read into stuff always, but I think it's fair to say that this was probably just, Micah having fun with Aaron Donald and, pontificating about like, oh, it would be cool to play with Aaron Donald. I didn't put much stock into this, but I didn't put much stock into the trade request from a literal sense. And that kind of brings us to where we are right now. I think that we are deep enough into this thing, not just the trade request from Micah, but like the thing of it all, that we have to consider that maybe he's done playing for the Cowboys, right? Like, I mean, we're at this point, right? Like we're this far down the rabbit hole. And I know that, a lot of who we are and a lot of our experiences suggest that this will work out. And that is probably what's ultimately going to happen, I think, if we had to bet on it. But I think that we have yet to really allow ourselves to think that this is real, right? Like I think like I don't mean to call it a bluff and put that label on what Micah and his team are clearly viewing as a very serious thing, but I mean, this is pretty far gone at this point. So I think that like it's a little bit concerning, and that changes not just this season for the Cowboys, but the entire future of the Cowboys. I mean, this would this has the potential, if it obviously were to go that one specific way, to really unravel a lot of plans that this team has for the foreseeable future. And I think about this, and I can't help but feel for a lot of people. Obviously, I feel for anyone who's trying to approach this seriously, anybody who's trying to approach this like an adult. I feel for Micah, his representation. I feel for the Cowboys on some level. I feel for their staffers. Maybe, yeah, I think it's fair to presume that there are Cowboy staffers who want this to get done, who don't understand why it always has to be this way. I really, really, really feel for Brian Schottenheimer and Matt Eberflus. Brian Schottenheimer is obviously a first-time head coach. This sucks that he has to deal with this circus going on and on and on and on. And I feel for Matt Eberflus, and I know he's obviously been a head coach before, but he gets a chance to be something that he should have been a long time ago, and that's the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. And there's a lot to that. He's the third defensive coordinator this team has had in as many years, and he hasn't had his best player on the field to work during training camp. And when we get in the middle of October, the middle of November, people will forget. Some fans, some critics will forget that this all happened, even if it does get worked out, and they will point the finger at Matt Eberflus and Brian Schottenheimer. And I would caution us, I would advise, I would, really, really ask all of us to remember this. This is not their fault. They are trying to make lemonade out of this situation. And it's really unfortunate and really unkind to put them in this predicament when all they're trying to do is win football games in the name of the Dallas Cowboys. It's again, I'm not trying to suggest or offer like, oh, dude, we're down bad. Like that. That's not my approach. That's not my mentality. That's not my disposition. But I do think I don't know what I thought. I mean, we did two live shows the day that this news broke, and I think we were all in some level of hysteria, even if it was predictable, right? I do think that while this situation was predictable, it wasn't predictable in this way. Like we all thought, right? We all believed for the most part that the Micah contract situation would be silly and would be drawn out in a silly way. I don't think any of us anticipated that he would hold in. And I'm not saying that you thought that was impossible, but I don't think we saw this exact sequence of plays coming from him. Holding in, still showing up, requesting a trade, obviously, being so public, putting a lot of information out there. Like, I don't think any of us thought that that was going to be within the realm of possibilities for potential outcomes. So again, I don't say that to say like, oh my gosh, these are super uncharted waters, but this is already in a lot of ways different than CD, different than Dak. And because of that, while it is fair to believe it's going to work out in the same way, it is a different course of action. And so that invites the possibility for different results and different destinations. And ultimately that's kind of where I'm at today and why I wanted to talk about this and kind of have a back and forth, and certainly interested to hear what all of you have to say, because like I never thought that, Dak or CD would be playing elsewhere. And I want to say something. I say this often. If you watch any of our videos, any of my videos, if you follow me on social, you know that I am, if we have to assign team Dak, team anti-Dak, I'm very team Dak. I believe that he is a very good quarterback. We're not here to talk about that. But that being said, from a front office football construction roster building standpoint, something I said often last year when the Cowboys were in negotiations with Dak and CD was that there had to be a point of no return from an objective standpoint. I say all the time that my dad, when I was growing up, would tell me to make decisions when you are not emotionally compromised. And so what I said was that there had to be a point. We're talking about Dak here. There had to be a point where let's play our game. If we ran the Cowboys, where we said to ourselves, okay, on June 1st, like let's pick that day. I know that's a day associated with NFL stuff, but let's just say June 1st. If we don't, and we would have had this conversation in March of last year, right? And we would have told ourselves, okay, if we don't have a deal done with Dak, because Dak was entering the final year of his deal and couldn't be franchise tagged, that's what made that situation unique. If we don't have a deal done with Dak by June 1st in this hypothetical, then we're just not going to do a deal. We're just not going to do a deal unless he comes way below his asking price, right? Unless whatever. But we're not going to do a deal past June 1st, because at that point we're just saying to ourselves we're prepared, we're ready to live with the consequences. And maybe you think like there wouldn't have been consequences. Like, please follow this train of thought, please. And I think that would have been the sound way to do it. But we all remember that the Cowboys got the Dak deal done on the day the season started. And the reason that's significant is that is in a extremely literal way, they did this, the Dak deal, in the most inefficient manner possible, right? Because look, if they had moved on from Dak, I would have spent this entire offseason when Dak got a new deal from someone else just destroying them for it. All right. I'll be hand up about that. But at least that, those sequence of thoughts, those sequence of events, those sequence of actions would have been born from an objective mindset, right? They would have said to themselves last year, right, like, okay, we're prepared to live with the consequences, even if the consequences are bad, right? Like we've all made, I don't know, like if you've bought a house or you've bought a car, right? Like you've said, okay, like this is our final offer. And if we get it, great. And if we don't, it's just not meant to be, right? Well, we'll go get a different one. We'll go whatever, this and that. Like I hope the point is understood here. And so that being said, there should have been a point of no return as opposed to waiting until the day the season started and just signing the blank check then. Because if you're going to sign a blank check, don't you want the check to be for the lowest possible number? The way the Cowboys did it, the blank check was for literally the highest possible number that it could have ever been. It was absurd. And so you can sit here and say that Dak is overpaid, whatever. I'm not going to fight that fight with you. But if you believe that, it's because the Cowboys let that be the case. They could have had him for much less if they had been proactive in their thoughts. And that goes well beyond just this current deal that he's on. And that goes for Ceedee and that goes for Micah. And so I bring that all up with Micah to say, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that point of no return is. I think now that we live in a world where Micah has requested a trade, it's almost been a week since he has. I think there has to be a point of no return, right? And again, I've offered that if you wanted to trade Micah Parsons, you should have done it in March. You should have definitely done it then in March of last year when somebody could have really gotten the most out of it, and therefore your bartering negotiating power with another team would have been higher than ever. But that's the thing, like, by letting it go this long, your negotiating power against, even if there was a team, like pick a team that you think would trade for Micah Parsons, you have so much less negotiating power against them, against the team. We're no longer talking about Micah here, than you would have if you had a level of proactivity. And so that's my point. Like, if you're going to pay him, if you're going to trade him, if you're going to do whatever, like at least do that with some forward thinking process in mind, and don't do it in the most inefficient manner that you possibly could, like you did with paying Dak Prescott. But I just, I think we all assume that we're going to reach a week, right? Because today's only 6 days since Micah requested a trade, and we're going to reach a week. The Cowboys practice on Thursday, later in the day after I'm putting this video together, and it's going to be more of Micah just being there and whatever, he's wearing his jersey and the same sort of thing. And it's unfortunate. Again, I go back to feeling for Brian Schottenheimer and Matt Eberflus, because all these dudes are trying to do is succeed, and the Cowboys are stirring the pot and making this black cloud hang above their heads. But I digress. So you can follow me, like I said, on any level of social media. The links to all of my social profiles are down in the description below. My name is RJ Ochoa. I love talking Dallas Cowboys with you, even if I have to do it in some different circumstances and environments from time to time. I appreciate the understanding from you all. That's just kind of the fun day and age we live in, that sometimes, we got to be moving around. But I'm going to be moving around myself across the rest of Thursday. Make sure to check out bloggingtheboys.com with our new look. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions about anything, you know where to find me, obviously. And yeah, let's go ahead and get out of here and hope that this team doesn't do anything silly, which is crazy. Live post-game show on Saturday, immediately following the conclusion of the game. We'll have live shows each and every single Dallas Cowboys game this season here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to hanging out with you all. Thanks so much, everybody. And we'll see you next time.